How do you overcome the lack of interest in customer training? Obviously, customers aren't really happy about having to sit down and go through courseware. They bought your product or service and they just kind of want to use it. But your job is to direct them into completing the training, and there's a benefit to you and the customer. Obviously, the first thing to think of is considering incentives. People like getting free stuff, and that free stuff could be complimentary, logo items. It could be free swag, or tickets into a drawing of some kind. Some people are actually giving away higher levels of support. Maybe they've paid for silver level of support, and if they complete the training, you upgrade them to gold support. That's a great incentive, because if they do your training, if then the training's well written, then they should call your support line less, and that will benefit you financially as well. Second, I think that making your content more interesting is critical. These shouldn't be white paper, boring, death by PowerPoint type slides. You need to consider cutting your training into smaller chunks. People, especially younger people today, are used to TikTok and things that are moving quickly, that are getting in, getting out. Consider cutting your training up into much smaller bite-sized pieces so they can be consumed that way. Even flashcards are a great training tool. Also consider, upgrading your voiceover if you are using PowerPoint slides or something like that. Consider an audio-only version. A lot of people commute. Some people might want to listen to something on the way in while they're driving into the office. So give them more options and more ways to consume that content. Another one is break your content into logical groups. When you think about customer training, there's really probably 4 primary groups of training. Number one is pre-customer training. That is, how do I sell and educate this person on why they should buy or own this product? And that's going to be a different type of training, right? And then once they purchase the training, then you really want to look towards onboarding training. How do I get this person up and using this product successfully as quickly as possible? After they've reached that milestone, then you want to have more of a product lifetime ownership training, which is more support type training. How do you head off issues that other people might have had? How do you push out training on that are tied to support tickets, things like that? How do I reduce my support calls? How do I make them happier owning the product? And then finally, at the end of the life cycle, you really have what you would consider upgrade or pre-sale. And how do I get them to either upgrade to another version of the product, or how do I get them to purchase the newer version of the product? Maybe the one they have is outdated and there's better options on what's available. So you want to break those out. You don't want to try and cram those into one big kind of course that you just offer up to them to take when they want to. Define them separately so that they can be consumed separately. I think it's easier for people to go in and take a 10-minute course or a 15-minute course than have to sit for an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of training. If they can just kind of bite it off in bite-sized chunks, you have a much higher rate of them completing. And finally, move your training to where it's needed. Very popular move in the last year or so, especially with SaaS applications, is what's called contextual training, where you might have a little icon of a graduation mortarboard on a button. And when you click on that, it will train you on just how to do that one part of that software product. You don't have to do the whole page. You don't have to do the entire software training program. It's just how do I do this one thing? By completing that, and you could serve it up in a video or slides and have a little 2 or 3 question quiz at the end, they get credit in the learning management system for consuming that content. But what you're doing is you're putting it where they need it. You can even put that in products. Let's say I'm trying to fix something on my freezer. I open up my freezer door and there's a little QR code there. I scan the QR code and it pulls up the primary things that people tend to want to fix by themselves within the freezer, right? So then I'm looking at a video while I'm standing in front of the product. I'm not having to go off and hop on a laptop. The idea is to move the training to in front of the individual at the point at which they're going to need it. And QR codes are a fantastic way to do that. Even support documents. I go and fill out a support ticket, and guess what? There's a little QR code. I scan it, and there's a little how-to video on how to solve that issue myself. So obviously, cutting up the training and putting it at the point at where it's needed will also help you get faster close rates on your training. So just to kind of review, we had incentivized people to complete courses, Offer upgrade support levels as an option. Make your content more interesting. Break your customer training down into logical sections. And finally, move your training to where and when it's needed. Hope this helps.